When it comes to the debate of who is the biggest joke in international football/soccer right now, the choices are endless. Whether it's Joey Barton, Mario Balotelli, Mino Raiola, Marcelo Bielsa, Cristiano Ronaldo statue maker, or anyone else you can think of, the choices for that title are endless. But there is no debate on who is the biggest joke of a confederation in the sport. It is hands down CONCACAF, or as I should say here, CONCACAF. Now, CONCACAF is the only confederation that still believes that it is a good idea to play your major tournament twice in one cycle. Not even Oceania decides to have their major tournament played twice in a World Cup cycle. Only CONCACAF still believes that mind-bogglingly idiotic idea is still good for them because they are so money desperate. And yet, they see once again how irrelevant their tournament is. Made even more so by the Copa America Centenario played last year, meaning that CONCACAF's strongest nations are playing their fourth straight summer, actually for some, fifth straight summer of action if you date back to the Copa America from 4 years ago. So, you diminish your tournament with this oversaturation of being the only confederation to play your major tournament twice in one cycle. Now, it was already a guarantee that the United States and Mexico were not going to be able to bring their A squads for this repetitive Gold Cup tournament. Mexico had just played in the Confederations Cup, which is much more important, and the United States European players needed to rest after a long club season instead of playing in another Gold Cup. So, El Tri and the red, white, and blue definitely weren't going to be able to bring their A squads. But for even those nations who aren't the big two in CONCACAF, they weren't bringing their full squads. Costa Rica's Keylor Navas was going to enjoy his summer after being a European champion once again with Real Madrid and keeping his #1 status, and was not going to waste his time playing another damn summer, especially it being a Gold Cup tournament. Then you even had Jamaica's squad, Jamaica, who are already eliminated from World Cup qualifying. They didn't even bring their full A squads themselves. Yet it's worked because they have made the final for Copa Oro, but even they know that it is a joke in itself. Add on to the fact that you have nations not recognized by FIFA playing in the Gold Cup. French Guiana and Martinique, it is great to have you in the tournament, and I am all for nation independence anytime, anywhere, especially since I am a black person. But despite you not being a colony, thankfully, anymore under France, you're still owned by France, and you aren't recognized by FIFA as a nation. So it leaves CONCACAF with the possible scenario, though highly unlikely, of French Guiana and Martinique winning the Gold Cup, only for them to, of course, not be recognized by FIFA and not allowed to possibly play in the Confederations Cup. And why it's another reason why you have to join in the laughter at CONCACAF if your nation is a part of CONCACAF. And those were the problems even before the tournament started. This installment of the Gold Cup has been more of a train wreck than Kevin James's movie career or the average PR statement released by R. Kelly and his camp. The French Guiana Florent Malouda situation should have led to the CONCACAF Gold Cup being terminated for the next 10 years alone. How in the hell does this confederation allow Florent Malouda, who wasn't just some player that only played professionally in the 3rd or 4th division of France, and who little people knew but was still good enough to sign and play for French Guiana? How in the hell could they allow a recognized French international with over 80 caps, who was a star for big European clubs, even if he's well past his prime, How in the hell does CONCACAF allow French Guiana to even put him on the roster for this tournament when there were questions about his eligibility? Shows you how much of a laughingstock this confederation seems like it will always be. The Malouda French Guiana situation alone should indict this confederation and have its tournament be irrelevant to the rest of the confederations around the world. That alone should be just the final straw. But there are still more painful aspects of how CONCACAF conducts its Gold Cup and how they give out discipline. CONCACAF thinks it's a great idea to be the only confederation to allow its nations in its major tournament to change their rosters at the group stage. So, you had the United States and Bruce Arena decide to bring in Josie Altidore, Michael Bradley, and Clint Dempsey into a tournament that is more irrelevant than an MLS game in April. Yes, CONCACAF still believes they are showing sagacity for that when the rest of the world looks at them as utter morons for allowing that to happen. And then to top off this utter clown show for the last 2.5 weeks, you have what took place in the El Salvador United States quarterfinal in Philadelphia, in which 2 El Salvadorian players of many started to act like they were in a Halloween movie and had their minds become deranged zombies. You had one player decide to grab Josie Altidore's nipples harder than Josie Altidore's girlfriend grabs his nipples, and then you had the other player try to do the best Luis Suarez impersonation. The guy who decided to do the Josie Altidore nipple grabbing as well as do his own Luis Suarez cannibal impersonation, Henry Romero, he received a 6-game ban from CONCACAF, but the guy who did the even more intense biting, Darwin Seren, he only got a 3-game suspension. A 3-game suspension after FIFA gave the precedent on biting people in terms of the suspension length precedent on Luis Suarez with the massive ban that they gave him, only for then CONCACAF to at least not make the suspensions for Seren and Romero equivalent. Only CONCACAF can continue to make itself such a laughingstock embarrassment and deserve to be actually called CONCACAF. So to recap this utter crap show and how CONCACAF is the worst confederation in the world, you have a confederation that decides to play its major tournament twice in a World Cup cycle. Then you have this confederation continuing to allow its teams to change their roster during the tournament. The 2 biggest powers in the confederation say months in advance that they won't bring their A squads to the tournament with legitimate and commonsensical reasons why they wouldn't do that. Then during the tournament, you have one of the 2 countries not recognized by FIFA, not a recognized FIFA country, have a player who had over 80 caps for France and whose eligibility was long into question before the tournament. You allow that player to still be on the roster, CONCACAF, and then have the embarrassment of French Guiana having to forfeit a match to Honduras. And to cap it all off, you then can't even give the right amount of punishment for when El Salvadorian players act like cannibals that make Luis Suarez bite on Giorgio Chiellini look like it was just a kiss on the cheek. CONCACAF summed up in a nutshell and why it is the worst confederation in world football. Only FIFA can give a major crackdown on CONCACAF for this nonsense. And this is FIFA we are talking about. Very unlikely. For TYT Sports, I'm Andrew Jones.